Hey, welcome back. Today we're very excited. We've got a very special guest in here with us, Coach Mike Kirschner. Coach, welcome.
Well, thank you. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, we're really excited to talk to the coach today. I've known the coach, probably about 12, 13-ish years, something like that now. He and I crossed paths several years ago. He's very accomplished. 4 Indiana State high school football championships, and he's coached at multiple different schools here in Indiana. But one of the things I love about the coach is that he's always had a great message, and he's always had a great plan on really how to lead, not only lead today's youth, but be able to get them to peak performance. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. First and foremost, Coach, congratulations on, you just announced to me earlier that you're nearing retirement.
Yep, I'm close. June 30th is my last day.
Okay, how does that feel?
Different. You know, I've been coaching for 41 years and been involved in coaching at not just football, but basketball, boys and girls, and track boys, and baseball, and softball. And I've just always been involved, and but decided to finish this last football season. Had a really good year, my last year here at Warren, and decided it was time to go a different direction. I'm going to be an assistant coach for my son, who's a head football coach.
Well, that'll
himself.
Be fun.
And, you know, probably coach my grandkids in baseball this spring. I got a bunch of grandkids that live out by me, and just take a different path here a little bit. Maybe take a step back and breathe a little bit.
Well, I mean, you've absolutely earned it over the years. Kind of talk about your history a little bit, your resume, if you will.
Graduated college in 1983 with an accounting degree and thought I was going to be a corporate controller.
Okay.
Did that for 6 years and wasn't enjoying it.
Yeah.
Just wasn't enjoying the business world, and was volunteer coaching football, and I decided that was a little bit more my path and went back to school, got a license in education, became a business teacher.
Okay.
That was 35 years ago, and during that time, like I've said, I've coached numerous sports, numerous championships, been very blessed to coach some very talented young men and young women.
Yeah.
I've coached both sides. Been very fortunate to work in some great school corporations like Warren Township, like Wayne Township, where Ben Davis is, Mount Vernon. And along the way, I've gotten to meet a lot of people from different walks of life, different backgrounds, different socioeconomic backgrounds. And I know we've talked about this before. Sometimes we have a tendency to judge people by the cover. And there's a book called We Make a Difference that I've referenced numerous times over the years. That's really instrumental in making me not judge a kid. And I use the example, I can bring in some kids in here that you would see the gold teeth and the tats and the things, and we would have a tendency to judge them. And that kid that you might think is a rough-looking kid is the kid that walks up and gives me a hug and tells me how much he loves me because of the things we went through in football and in the classroom and educationally, and getting them out of their comfort zone to think beyond the world they're living in and get into a world that they can go out and be successful and be productive citizens in society. And we're always talking to our players and our athletes about, you know, don't make football the highlight of your life. When we won it at Ben Davis in 2017, we went 14-0, and undoubtedly maybe the best team I'd ever been associated with. Athletically, we've got Reese Taylor, who's currently he was our quarterback. He's playing for the Broncos right now. And DeJuan Jones was an offensive lineman on that team, and he's playing for the Cleveland Browns. But even with those guys, don't make this the highlight of your life. The highlight of your life, and ultimately I think how we as coaches, administrators, management, people should be judged is the people that work around us and with us. Are they becoming better citizens? Are they better husbands? Are they better fathers? Are they contributing to society in some way other than some moment in time like a championship, which I just think is so shallow when it's all. I'm not trying to demean what we did and when we won it in 01 and 02 and 14. I remember all those teams like they're yesterday. I remember the kids on this team, but the quarterback in 14 went on to go to college at Columbia University. He's now getting ready to get married.
Wow.
He lives in Arizona. He's very successful. Asmar Bilal, who played on that team, first kid in his family to ever go to college.
Wow.
Nobody had ever gone to college for. He not only went to college, he graduated from Notre Dame, played a couple years in the NFL. He's very successful, does a lot of mission work around the world. Mm-hmm. He's becoming a contributor to society beyond football, which to me is what we as coaches should be striving to do and what we as people should strive to do. We live in a society where we see the news, and the news is filled with the negatives. And there were, in Indianapolis last night, there were two teenagers shot in Indianapolis. One over here on the west side. Don't know why, don't know, but what is causing that to happen? Is it a lack of a family structure? Is it a lack of connection to society? We as teachers, we as educators, we as coaches are working really hard to connect with those kids on a very deeper level, because if we don't, they get pulled to something else that's different. And the kids today have access to things. When I was a child of the 60s and 70s, I didn't have access to which changes it. In May of 2023, I'm going to share a short story with you. I know I'm getting winded here, but in May of 2023, I had all the seniors over to my house for a cookout, about 40 kids. You know, we have a great time. They're playing video games in my house, eating hamburgers and hot dogs, and just. And that night at 7 o'clock, I told everybody they had to wrap it up. It was a Thursday night, and they were going to go home. I said, we got school the next day. Everybody's got to leave. When I'm talking to the kids in my living room, I said, you guys aren't even good at the video games, kind of making jokes. Mm-hmm. A young man, I'll just use his first name only, by the name of Victor, he said, Coach Kirsch always got jokes, and he grabs me, he said, Coach, I love you, I got to go. Gets in his car and leaves. That was the last time I spoke to him. Mm-hmm. 2 hours later, he took his life. I had no idea. I felt to this day when I spoke at his funeral service, I didn't know what to say to the family, because I felt like somewhere, somehow, I didn't make a deep enough connection to know that there was something going on in that man's life that he didn't feel there was any other way out. And you feel responsible. You feel like there's something we needed to do to find a deeper meaning of what was going on. And to this day, I don't want to say I got past it, because I can't, but obviously we move on. But that's happened in my career multiple times. It's not just suicide, but murders and the death. And I think over the course of my last 3 decades, I've lost 20-some kids due to some sort of violence or suicide. And it's heartbreaking, because you see in that kid something successful, something good, something wholesome, but we lost it. And getting it back is a hard thing for us to do. And I dedicated my career many, many years ago to not worrying about winning, but worrying about the person more than the game.
Yeah, I mean, you've been in a very specific situation as you're kind of a bridge for these folks, right? Mm-hmm. And you've talked about don't make football your life. It's a vehicle for them to give them a life.
Yeah, for a lot of them, it is a vehicle. And you're absolutely right, because for a lot of our kids, they see football as an opportunity to maybe improve, go to college to play sports, maybe get a college degree, and maybe change their life, because a lot of their family members never went to college. Not that college is the end-all be-all, because there's all different kinds of ways to be successful. College isn't the end-all be-all. But like on this year's team, the team I just finished, we finished with 40 seniors on the football team. 19 are going to go to college to play football. I mean, the national average is 5.5% of all seniors go to college, D1, D2, D3 to play. In my last 22 years, our average is right at 48%.
That's awesome.
Because we make sure we take care of our kids academically. We get them help. The one thing we did, I did as an AD 2 years ago at Warren, is we hired a psychologist to meet with our athletes to help with the mental part of, not just the mental part of the game, but the mental part of life. Because that's what they struggle with. They get bombarded with, and we talked about this briefly, they get bombarded with that phone. That phone's a problem. The phone is not always real. and what they see in the phone isn't real, and they get so locked into that phone that they can't carry on a conversation. They can't talk about their feelings and how they feel. So we've hired and paid for a psychologist to come in and meet with our kids.
Yeah.
We've started a mental health conference at our school. It's coming up this Wednesday, required of all athletes. They have to attend. It's not optional. Or you can't participate until you meet that standard.
Okay.
Because we think that's so important that we reach them on a deeper level, a more meaningful level other than athletics.
Yeah, and it's really hard. I've got 2 teenagers. Well, one that's almost a teenager will be this year, and an older one. And you look at life like you talked about earlier when you grew up, when I grew up, you know, you're 60s, 70s, I was 70s, 80s, 90s, and the world's different. And they have everything, access to everything on demand. But one of the things we talk about a lot in foundations is really the expectation management. You know, and we look at these phones, and for the most part, we every now and then we'll have some Eeyores in the world, right, that want to put all their problems and complain on there. But for the most part, you see the Disney trips and the home runs and the straight A's and the new cars and the new houses and all that. You don't see a lot of that dysfunction. So when you're looking through that lens, it looks like everyone else in the world's perfect. And we go back and look at ourselves and say, we're not, and we have all of these things going on. So it almost sets this unreal expectation that I'm the only imperfect person in the world because this is what I'm looking at. It's my frame of reference, basically.
Right. And that's a great frame of reference. And we talk about how the things have changed. I don't know that kids have changed. And I mean that from the standpoint that they have everything at their access. I would have to go to a library to do a report. I would have to go to a library and look at the encyclopedia to figure out World War II. They Google World War II. So
or watch a video on YouTube.
Yeah, there you go. That part has changed, but I still think kids, they want to be loved. They want to be needed. They want discipline. They want structure. They want help. And I don't think that's changed from when I was a kid in the 60s to where the kids are today. I just think we've forgotten how to do that sometimes as adults. We forgot how to love them, hug them, be open with them. You know, one of the things I did over the number of years as a head coach is a thing, and I know you've heard me talk about this, called Share Your Life Story, where we bring all our kids in together and each kid goes around the room and tells their life story. Because like you here, you may think you know everybody in your corporation or your business, but do you really know them on a personal, deeper level? We walk down the hall and we say, hi, how you doing? But do we really stop and say, no, really, how are you doing? Or do we just say that in passing? And we forget to take that moment in time to talk to those kids. And so when we did those Share Your Life Story moments, I got to realize that the first time I ever did it, which was 2011, that even though I knew my kids as football players and as students, I didn't know my kids as people. And I think in leadership, getting to know people on a personal level is key, because when they know, there's an old saying, and I'm sure you've heard it, they don't care how much you know till they know how much you care.
I use it today.
is imperative, because it's true. And I use that, the simple story of Share Your Life Story. When we started it that night, I told the kids my life story, because they assumed as the coach that I was disciplined, I did everything right, and when you get brought home by the police, I got brought home by the police in 7th grade. I wasn't doing the right thing. I wasn't a good kid. I was hanging around with some bad kids. I needed to make some different decisions in my life. But there was a young man sitting next to me that night by the name of Anthony, and Anthony lived 5 houses away from me. I knew everything about Anthony. I knew his mom, his dad, his little sister. He hooped in my driveway, and he's talking about his family and how neat it is, and then he goes off on a tangent and says, well, I'm never allowed at family reunions. See, my mom's white, my dad's black, and my family doesn't believe in interracial marriages. And all of a sudden I realized, I don't know Anthony. Anthony graduated from Wabash. He's a fireman in California. He's a husband. He's a father of 2. But I didn't know Anthony at that personal level. And that's when I realized as a coach that, we were winning football games. We were winning championships, but I wasn't a good football coach, because I wasn't leading men because I didn't understand their personal feelings and what was going on in their life. And you can't lead, I don't think, until you know them on a personal level.
Yeah.
I think you can get them to do what you want them to do. I think I can get them to play hard. I can get them to help us win games. I can get them to understand schemes and concepts of football.
Yeah.
But I'm not helping them become what I think is important: a better husband, a better father, a better person.
No, that's a great point. I think that's absolutely applicable in the workplace as well.
No question.
And the same concepts. We talk a lot about, we call the iceberg theory, right? And so the iceberg, it's powerful enough it sank the Titanic. Mm-hmm. So we see this little piece of it above the surface, but what we don't see is this humongous under the surface piece, and within that are all these little subparticles that when we see someone act out of behavior, right, something that's not normal or at a baseline for them, or someone's not performing, it's like, what's going on under the iceberg? We all have them. Right. We all walk around with them, and until we get to know people at that level that you're talking about, we'll never know what's under their iceberg. And if we don't know what's under their iceberg, we can't really be able to connect with them at a high level, build that trust, understanding, and expect them to come to us when they need help.
Key word there is building trust. You hit the nail on the head. Building trust in a team setting, in a corporation setting, from the top down. When I was in the business world, I was a corporate accountant for 6 years. Back when I first got out of college, that was one of the first things my boss, a guy by the name of Jerry Gorup, who was a great person to work for, that was one of the first things he taught me as a young executive in this corporation who's got a bunch of people working underneath him, and I'm 23 years old, and I'm not even dry behind the ears, and I'm talking to people in their 50s.
Yeah.
And he said, you got to get them to trust you. And you do that by working hard, being loyal, talking to them, communicating. I had never even thought about that because my college books didn't teach me that. They taught me how to do accounting.
Sure.
They didn't teach me how to reach people and talk to people and communicate with people, and I was very poor at it. I was not good at it, but he was really good at it. I mean, he was one of those guys that when you sat down and talked to Mr. Gorup, you felt like you were at ease, you were at peace. There was never he's the boss and I'm this guy. It was always, how can I help you? And I thought that made him really an effective leader that showed me things I'd never even thought about before.
But you were open to listen to him.
Right.
Because
there's
you
no
trusted
question.
him.
I trusted him.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's why that's important. And I think my players over the years have trusted me because they knew my door was always open. If they needed to come see me, I can tell you the story of a young man. My wife thought I was crazy, but I get a call at 11 o'clock at night. I'm home. I'm done for the night. At my age, I'm ready for bed, and I get a call from a young man. And he'd been out of school about 3 years. And he says, hey, coach, I'm not going to use the name, but this is so-and-so. And I said, yeah. And I couldn't tell if it was or wasn't him. But I'm trusting. And he goes, hey, me and my girlfriend, she's 8 months pregnant, just got kicked out of the house. We got no money. We got no place to stay. I said, not a problem. I'm heading up to school. I'll meet you at Ben Davis, in the front of Ben Davis High School. I'll be there by midnight. I'll take care of it. We'll get you through this. And my wife's like, you're nuts. They're going to rob you. I said, okay. So be it. But I trust that I'm talking to her. And I get up there and I meet his girlfriend and she's 8 months pregnant and they have no money. And I gave them money. I got them a room for a few nights at a hotel. Bought them food. Got them taken care of. Yeah. I've never heard from him again. But that trust was there. And I believe you got to go beyond. I just believe you got to reach out, and when we leave this world, I'm not trying to get religious, but God's not going to judge me, I don't think, whether or not I go to church on Sunday. He's going to judge me on how I treat people on a daily basis, how I get up every day. How do I treat people? Do I make them feel better? Do I help them? And I think that's imperative.
Yeah.